expressed in this show belong to the person expressing them. They do not purport to reflect the opinions or views of Rancher or any other entity. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Coffee and Cloud Native. My name is Adrian Goins. This is the show that shares news and interesting content related to Kubernetes, Cloud Native, and other nifty technology. What am I today? I have this list of words I have to pick from, and I try not to pick the word that I use. Today I'm going to be stoked. I was stoked a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to be stoked again today. I am stoked to be here with you today on the show. If you're watching live, consider following or subscribing to the channel. And if you're watching a replay, then give the video a thumbs up so the YouTube algorithm shares it with other people. Join the free community site and the Discord server. Links to that are in the video description and then scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Live chat happens in Discord with a bot that relays between YouTube and Twitch, so come hang out with us either during the show or after. And nice. Kermit the Frog. Let's say hello to everybody who is in the chat this morning. Adrian Grimshaw, Nuno, Wifebot, Peter Keach, Old Man with a Hat. Ian was here very early. I saw you said hello to me, sir, but I was doing the pre-flight checklist and I couldn't say hello. And then when I was going to say hello later, it would have seemed weird because it was like 10 minutes later. The lag is not quite that long. Mladen, good morning. Gerald B. I saw OFS roll in here too. Yeah, there we go. And scrolling. I don't know if I said hello to Peter Keach. Who else is here? All right, so there's only so much we can scroll. Good morning, everybody. And I know there's one of you who was unable to sleep and is watching live from the Pacific coast of the United States. Hello, welcome to the show. We'll talk very quietly in case you fall back asleep. Actually, no, we won't. Today is... I say things and Wifebot actually listens in headphones, so there's like a 6-second delay. So I'll say something and then like 6 seconds later, I hear her laugh. And I'm like, oh, what did I say that was funny? Okay, today's Thursday. You know what that means. The hot seat. Ellybot's gonna run a 5-minute giveaway in the live chat channel on Discord. I will call that winner over Discord. See the little headphone? And I'll bring them on the show to do the A/B test with me right here, right now, today. It's called the hot seat because if you win, you have no idea what Trufflebot's going to show us. I'll present the content to you and everyone else, and then we'll spend a few seconds talking about it before we move on to the next item. Nobody joined the hot seat last week, and maybe nobody will join this week. In which case, that's fine. I get to hear out of both ears then, and we'll just go on with the show. We have more people here this week, I think, than we did last week. So let me go and kick that off. Boom. All right. Wifebot will pin that. If you're interested in joining, click the little icon-y thing, and... Oh, I saw somebody saying hello from YouTube. Ryan F. Oh, Ryan F is also in PST. Wow. I wasn't actually referring to you, but it's nice. There's two of you. Cool. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and get started, and that... Oh my God, Nuno, you made me snort. Nuno posted a shame. Get the thing. Okay, all right, I'm moving out of that, and I'm going to start. Actually, before we start the A/B test, I posted this week's weekly challenge. It's not actually yesterday's weekly challenge. That would make no sense at all. I posted the weekly challenge. It's the third weekly challenge and the last weekly challenge for the month of December because the show's gonna stop at the end of the week so that I can rest for 2 weeks and enjoy the holidays, which rest means do a lot of work. But you all work in the same field as I do. You know exactly what it means. This week's challenge is around Falco, and yeah, so if you use it, great. If you don't use it, check it out. This fits right in with admission control that we did with Kyverno and OPA in the first week, network policy that we did last week, and now we're gonna just put some security monitoring, sidekick notification, alerting gnarliness into the Kubernetes clusters. So check that out. Otherwise, I'm going to actually start on the A/B test and we'll see what that gives us. Now, what is the A/B test for those of you who are watching new? The A/B test is a section of the show where, where we talk about stuff. So the collector bots have gathered candidates for the show, and Trufflebot has scored them from 1 to 5 coffees, corresponding to a 75 to 100% probability of being interesting content. He posts them one at a time in the A/B test channel on Discord. I load them up. Anyone watching live can rate them in Discord, and then the final scores are shown when we move to the next item. Total rating for all items shown on the show is used to rate the show itself, and in the future, I'll use those votes to refine the machine learning model. That's one of the plans that I have for my luxurious, relaxing vacation. So first up, we have a lightweight piece of news that will eventually load. Hey! Oh my gosh, app privacy labels now live on the App Store. If you go to the App Store and you download an app or you buy an app or you look at an app, it's going to tell you how it's going to use your data. Specifically, let's actually look at the more interesting things here. So it will tell you how they use data to track you, what data is shipped out, what they collect, and it's pretty draconian. From the Apple implementation standpoint, I think this is great. I think that it's good to force people to do stuff. There are a couple of things around it that I'm not so sure about. One is both cool and not cool. Publishers can update their tracking data without having to resubmit their app for approval. I don't know if that tracking data is also verified, but what it means is that if I go and download an app today and they change their policy tomorrow, I might not know about it until never, because I don't go back to the App Store and look at the disclosures before I update the apps. They get updated automatically in the middle of the night or in the middle of the day or during the show, which has happened before. So the value of it, I think, is not, it's kind of like check the boxy, like, oh yeah, we're doing this. The second thing is, I honestly, from what we've seen in there have been some pretty gnarly, I've used gnarly twice today. There have been some pretty ugly disclosures about privacy violations from the private sector and the public sector for the last several years, and nothing has happened. Nothing. So I look at this and I think that genuinely people just aren't going to care. Like my mom's going to go and look at it and she's going to be like, well, I really want the Sudoku app. So who cares if they track me? Because I never leave my house. Which means that the value of it is, it's hand wavy. But it's still maybe better than nothing, and maybe it's like the start of, I don't know. I just present it to you. Do we have a winner yet? Do we have anybody? Has anybody? Okay, we have 4 people, and there's only 10 seconds left. Okay, I'm gonna wait to start the next one to see. Nuno called it. The winner of the hot seat is Ian P. All right, Ian. I wish I could click on your name and it would actually open a window, but it doesn't. It opens a thing where I can see your profile. So I'm going to say hi to you. That will open a window. And now I'm going to call him. So maybe he doesn't know yet. We figured out the technology. Okay, let's rock and roll. We're just gonna have to accept it. I'll say something and then we'll just wait for you to reply. So back to this, back to that. Next item is about Amazon. Of course, it is reInvent, and Amazon is announcing all sorts of stuff, and I'm surprised it took so long for Amazon to point their giant BFG of open source, it's not even adoption, it's absorption at Prometheus. Did you see this, Ian?
I certainly did, yes.
What do you think? Is it a good thing?
I've been waiting for it to happen.
Yeah?
It was inevitable that in the cloud land grab that if it isn't nailed down, Amazon or Microsoft will be grabbing it.
Yeah, I saw somebody writing up something yesterday about how if Amazon basically ignores competition until it actually is better than them, and then in the case of open source stuff, they just adopt it, or if it's a private company, they just buy it. Now, I'm not sure that Prometheus as a service is actually bad. I mean, yesterday or the day before, I was talking about how I don't like that I launch a Kubernetes cluster and then it was yesterday, and then I have to use all of the CPU and RAM of it to host Prometheus and Grafana and all these other things. Do you think that this is, like, in general, well, first of all, do you use AWS for anything, Ian?
Yes, I do.
Do you host your own Prometheus systems?
My Prometheus system lives on my Raspberry Pi cluster. And I'm going down the view of that, let's have one cluster for management and let the other clusters do the work. And therefore, that one cluster that's set aside for management, all the resources can be taken up by the management platform.
Would you like to use a managed Prometheus service from AWS instead of running your own?
I honestly don't know. Commercially, for the company I work for, I should be talking Microsoft speak, because we're Microsoft's CSP. Personally, I prefer Amazon. I don't know whether or not when I come to revisit it and refresh and upgrade, whether it'll go back on the Amazon on the Raspberry Pi cluster, or it'll go to Amazon. But it'll certainly won't live on the operational net cluster.
I think we got most of that. There's this thing that Zoom started doing, which I think Discord might be doing as well, which is when there's lag, they take what the person said and then they like speed it up. And so that's resulting in a little bit of distortion. Okay, so in general, I personally
speak slower. I said, speaking slower, that I run Prometheus on a Raspberry Pi cluster, and moving forward, when I refresh it might well end up on an AWS cluster. It's a dedicated management cluster, not the operational cluster.
Right. We're going to keep trying this. Okay. I think it's ultimately going to be a good thing. And I don't know if it's going to come up next or not, but they also have a preview of Grafana as a service. Go figure. Like, how can you have a Prometheus without a Grafana? But what does come up next is they've gone after Google's Cloud Shell thing with their own Cloud Shell thing. I'm surprised that took as long as it did as well. This is Cloud Shell. It's free for up to 10 shell environments. It will retain up to 1 gigabyte of data if it's in your home directory. Outside of that, there's no persistence whatsoever. So you can fire this up. It comes with the AWS CLI, a Python environment, an NPM environment, and some other tooling. But you can install other tooling. Just know that when your Cloud Shell goes away, the other tooling will go away unless it's installed locally. So you could think of like a Python virtual environment in your local environment, and then you can install all of the tooling that you want. What do you think, Ian?
I'm thinking that it's a bit overkill. Why would I want to run a virtual environment that keeps disappearing when I have to load it on a local platform? So, yeah, I'll stick to the local platform. Thank you, Mr. AWS, and I won't bother.
Okay. Let's see what the community thinks. The community. We're split between 4s and 5s. Let's see what's up next. It's hard for me not to put Amazon stuff up because like new announcements of things, but I also don't want to, oh gosh, I don't want to saturate the show with Amazon content. But, okay, so this one was a challenge for me. I wasn't sure if I wanted to put this on the show. So I stared at it for a while. And I decided to put it on the show anyway because you can use 100% free tooling to do what's described here. Even though the example uses the paid version of Inlets, you can do this with the free version of Inlets. I prefer the free version of Inlets. I think the paid version is overpriced. What he's described here is well, poor Alex. He describes how to do this on a AWS cluster hosting your own Prometheus. But the idea here is if you have disparate Kubernetes clusters in multiple locations, here's how you can use Inlets to punch holes between those clusters and have a central Prometheus deployment that pulls metrics from remote deployments and then displays them all locally. The viability of the solution, I think, is 100% valid. The only other way that you would do this is you would run multiple Grafanas in multiple locations, and that's a resource drain. Also requires that you expose those things to the internet. So a solution like this, I think, is actually quite clean and nice. What do you think, Ian?
I totally agree with you. And as per my previous comment, it's something that I'm looking to do and want to do. That's that one management platform to manage them all.
Nice. Yep. So yeah, it fits exactly with your management cluster.
Yeah.
So this is Inlets for Prometheus. And like all the blog content that Alex writes, it's comprehensive and you can just follow along with it. It's sprinkled with please buy my stuff, which of course, Alex needs to make a buck too. I'll leave it up to you whether or not you want to do that. Okay, next we have something from my new friends at Polyverse. I had Polyverse on the show a long time ago talking about their amazing polymorphing, and they have another thing now called polyscripting, which can do polymorphing, but for interpreted languages like PHP or probably Perl or whatever. The example that they have is a WordPress environment, and I've actually been working with Archis from Polyverse over the last couple of weeks on this exact thing. And they're wonderful, their technology is wonderful. And they released an article, well, it's actually not much of an article, but they recorded a webinar, and then they have a reference guide on, which is a PDF, on how you can polymorph your EKS worker nodes, as well as building containers that polymorph the operating system components that are inside of the container. Ian, did you see this when it was on originally? Are you familiar with Polyverse and what they do?
I missed it the first time around.
They do. They have technology that stops zero-day attacks by not just recompiling all of the binaries, but actually changing where things live in memory, what the system calls are. They obfuscate the actual library system calls largely by recompiling everything. You can deploy an operating system, connect it to their package repository, and either pull down scrambled binaries or in the case of like the polyscripting, deploy their engine, which will scramble PHP and make it so that if somebody were to compromise your machine with some zero-day or compromise your container, nothing is where they expect it to be.
Yeah, I can see a real need for this. From the phone calls I've had with colleagues at work recently on the security teams, they're getting more and more paranoid about zero-day attacks. So I think moving forward, the only budget to be spent in the next 12 months or so may well be tagged security. So I think that offering more and more advanced secure options are going to get the attention of people out there.
I agree. I am very, very interested in what Polyverse is putting together. And when I first had it on the show, I mean, it was a while ago, but when I first had it on the show, I was like, why is everybody not just using this? If you're interested in learning more about Polyverse, just go to their site, check them out, or you can ping me directly, and I will do my best to answer questions for you, because there's a lot here. It's super cool. Let's do one more before we move on to the tool of the day. Oh, this is actually perfect. Next up, we have documentation from Cilium. This is funny. This is not actually new, but this did show up in the collector bot output yesterday, which I thought was kind of interesting because it directly applies to last week's network policy projects. And it's specifically about how you can use Cilium network policies, which are an extension of the Kubernetes network policy, with DNS-based rules. And I actually had to do this with my Cilium network policies for the network policy challenge last week, where I had a CodeEMD environment that needed to talk to the GitHub API for authentication. And I'm not going to keep track of what addresses that lives at. So I was able to just say DNS, like whatever connects out to whatever is on the other end of github.com or star.github.com is permitted. And it was a super easy, fantastic way to maintain functionality without taking on a bunch of headache. Have you used Cilium, Ian, or done anything with network policies?
No, no, I haven't. So I really don't have an opinion on this, but yeah, anything that's, going back to the previous point, anything that locks down and improves security, it's got to be an improvement.
Yep. I like Cilium because while they are a CNI that you can deploy in your Kubernetes cluster, that's how I have it here at home, and that's actually how DigitalOcean does it. If you're using anything else, you can also just put their policy engine in on top as a daemon set, and it will work with any other CNI provider. So if you're interested in getting super powerful, super flexible, eBPF-based network policy and other magicalness, check out Cilium.
Will do.
All right, so before I let you go, Ian, and I apologize that I mentioned in the beginning that we're really far away from one another because I'm way down here in Chile and you're in Wales, right?
I'm actually in London.
You're in London, okay.
Yeah.
That's really far in internet terms.
Yes.
So before we go, normally at the beginning, I ask if there's anybody that you want to say hi to and who you are and what you do. I skipped all that, but do you want to do an introduction right before we hang up?
An outro. Yes.
An outro.
Yeah, I'd like to take a shout out to partner in crime in the GIF wars at Nuno. There's no doubt listening in. I hope so.
Yep.
Yourself and Wifebox for running quite an interesting lunchtime session. It's lunchtime over here in the UK. And it's great to actually put a block in my diary so salespeople don't ring me all this time. So yeah, carry on with what you're doing. It's well worth listening
awesome.
in. And yeah.
Awesome.
Somebody else to have a hot seat after the new.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Maybe during my 2 weeks of downtime, I'll figure out how to have like a quick Zoom backup that we can fire up if we run into this this lag issue again. But thank you very much for joining us today, sir. You were a wonderful guest, and I look forward to talking with you more in the future.
Yeah, talk to you soon.
All right, ciao. All right, everybody, round of applause for Ian joining us today in the hot seats. And that leaves us just enough time for hearing out of both ears for the tool of the day. Today's tool of the day is, wow, it's so weird when I take that headset out, suddenly I feel like I'm yelling. Today's tool of the day is Kubie. Kubie is quite adorable. I use kubectx and kubens from AmetB. I've used those for years, and they're just fantastic. Like every time I need to switch a Kubernetes context, I'm just, KCC blah or ns blah. And it especially works really well with FZF, which is a fuzzy finder search utility. If you don't know about FZF, also life-changing, particularly when using things like this. Well, Kubie caught my attention because it popped up in the bot output yesterday, and it said that it's an alternative to kubectx and kubens. I was like, oh, okay. And specifically the k-on prompt modification script. Direct comparison of features between kubectx and kubie, it's like, well, if kubectx and kubens do what I need them to do, why should I switch to something that does the exact same thing? It doesn't, from what I can tell, appear to be faster. If it has more features, I didn't find them this morning because I'm just not using them, except over the last several days, I have been supremely frustrated with the time that I lose when I go back to my terminal and I don't know what Kubernetes cluster I'm connected to. I'm probably connected to the one I was talking to yesterday, but I have multiple windows. Sometimes a different window is connected to a training cluster or a home cluster or whatever. And I was like, man, could I get something in iTerm that shows me that? Well, thank you, Universal Unconscious of the Internet, because now it gave me this. Apparently, iTerm wants to install a new thing. Let me actually blow this up a little bit. Whoa. So now with kubie, it will tell me that that's off the screen. Stand by. There we go. So now it will tell me what I'm connected to. So it alters my prompt. Oh, now I'm on the home cluster and the default namespace. I want to switch back to DigitalOcean. Lag, of course, picks that up, but it will tell me in just a moment. Come on. There we go. That's where I'm connected to. And if I switch to the Monachus namespace, for example, well, then now I know. And while it kind of seems silly, like you see how much lag there is between here and DigitalOcean, that lag adds up when I'm doing stuff throughout the day, for the show at night. This is FZF. So I can just type NS and it'll go out and pull out all of the namespaces in the cluster. And I can either, cursor up or cursor down, or I can, for example, start typing and it will pick up the ones that I want. So this is kubie. I know you can't vote on it yet, but I think it's pretty cool. Apparently they had a blog post that talked about it as well. So if you want to know more about that, that's linked off of the GitHub repo. All right, we got to get out of here. It's the end of there's only one more show tomorrow, and then we're off until after the first of the year. So thank you very much for joining us. That's all that I have for you today. Thank you to Ian for joining us in the hot seat. Sorry about the lag and the latency. If you don't like that, go talk to the PIC for the internet. Links to everything I talk about on the show go up in the free community side at community.cncn.io. Why do I still have that browser on the screen? Hey, look, it's me. Come and join us. Community members get early access to the links, the video replay, and other exclusive content. It's free to join, and the community is growing every single day. If you have something that you would like for me to consider for the show, post it in the community site, mention me in the post, or you can just ping me on Discord or Twitter. Have a great day, everyone. Keep learning. I will see you in the next show. Stay caffeinative.